What's going on, everybody? We are back for another Angle of Pursuit YouTube video. Today we are talking some undervalued wide receivers, and Ben Rolfe is here to help us do that. Ben, you got two guys on your list. One of them I'm very much in on. The other one I'd love to hear your argument for. Let's start with the guy that I like, and that's Mr. Stefon Diggs. Obviously, was a guy that last season was, making tremendous strides before dealing with an injury. We know Sam Bradford is his quarterback, but there's still a ton to like here. Talk to me about Mr. Diggs.
I'm going to say something radical here. I don't think Sam Bradford's awful. He kind of got sidetracked a little bit, the passing game did, by that awful offensive line. Like, Sam Bradford was having to get rid of the ball within sort of zero point 0.3 seconds or risk losing sort of 4 limbs on each play. Like, I felt really sorry for that Vikings offense last year. It looked horrible situation. You could see everyone want for it to go better than it was. And I think Stefon Diggs this year is going to grow into his role. I think they've got Adam Thielen. I think Laquan Treadwell is going to become part of that offense. They've obviously still got Kyle Rudolph, but I still think there's plenty of targets for Stefon Diggs. I really do. I think he's going to see a ton of targets. I think they're going to found a way to use him around the red zone because they're going to need to have that way. I think as good as Dalvin Cook and all those guys are going to be this year, I think Diggs is going to be that guy that can do the short yardage, regular stuff, the kind of Julian Edelman style stuff that they do. But I think he's also got the ability to go on and be he's got top 10 potential. I don't think he's going to get there, but I absolutely think he's got top 15 upside, especially in a PPR league. And right now in either format, you're looking at the sort of a top 30 draft pick in terms of wide receivers. So you're looking at Stefon Diggs going in around the 56th pick. So we're talking round 5, round 6-ish, depending on your league depth. I really think he's a solid number 2. I wouldn't be completely upset in a PPR to have him as my number 1 if I'd gone running back heavy. I really think this is a guy you can build your wide receivers around, and you can know that you can feel confident, I would say, that there's going to be 10, 12 targets a game, and I think he can catch most of them and do something good for you. And in PPR, 12 targets is a monstrous amount, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think this guy is 90-something catch upside. I think he has over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. I think he has that top 10, top 15 upside that you speak to, and yeah, I'm 100% in. Now, the other guy on your list, Mr. Will Fuller, obviously, that broke his collarbone. There's a lot to be scared of heading into the season, but, you still think he's the value. Is he a guy that, with your last pick in redraft leagues, you're grabbing, you're stashing, and then when he comes back, you're going to throw him in your lineup?
If I've got an IR spot, 100% am I drafting him in pretty much every league, and I might even be willing to go a little bit earlier than my last round pick. If he's just going to take up a bench spot for me, he's my last round pick. But let's be honest, when you get to those final rounds, what are you looking at? By that point, you've got 4, maybe 5 running backs. Is it really worth taking that handcuff running back? Do you think that's where the value lies, or is the value going to lie in getting a high upside wide receiver who potentially could come back 100-yard games? I'll just pull up his game logs from last year, and we can just sort of see that he was very good early on in the season when he was fresh, before teams sort of worked him out. He had 100-yard games in the first 2 weeks, and then an 80-yard game in week 4, and then he fell off a little bit, I think, as teams started to realize that his quarterback was slightly rubbish, and also sort of worked him out.
I think slightly is a nice understatement for Mr. Brock. I do agree with you that there's stuff to like. The quarterback upgrade is a huge improvement. My biggest question is, if you say you draft Will Fuller and you don't have an IR spot, don't you feel like when you're going to pick up that hot waiver claim, he'll be one of the first guys that you kind of throw to the waiver wire in an attempt to pick up somebody else?
Yes, on the basis that no one else has got injured. But I kind of think, actually, you know what? Will Fuller might be the guy I draft today in a draft, but I drop in before week 1 to pick up my defense if nothing else kind of materializes. So there are other gambles I like around there. I like Curtis Samuel. I can see why you might gamble on Kenny Golladay at the end of drafts. Like, I can see why you might do those things. But Will Fuller is a guy, like, I generally am drafting knowing my first 3 wide receivers are the guys I'm going to start. I know my first 3 or 4 running backs, I'm going to start 3 of those guys at least. That's my aim. So at the end of my draft, I want a guy that's going to help me come playoff time. Like, it obviously depends. Sit here saying draft Zeke, draft Doug Martin, draft Will Fuller. You can't draft all of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got Zeke, well, Will Fuller's off the table. If you've got Doug Martin, then probably Will Fuller's off the table. But if you've not gambled on those two guys and then you're looking to fill a bench spot with massive upside, I really think Will Fuller's it. I think PPR wise, he could be a monster come playoff time. I really do. I don't see what you're losing by gambling. If you drop him in week one, oh well, you took the gamble, you tried, but chances are you drafted Spencer Ware and he just got hurt, and you're going to drop him instead for that defense in week one. So that's the way I kind of look at it right now. Unless you're drafting the day before the season, that's where things differ for me in terms of this gamble pick. I'm not going to be drafting Wolf or only to drop him tomorrow to pick up a defense. That's a silly thing to do.
Yeah.
But if I'm drafting now, 10 days ahead or 9 days ahead, even, I might take Will Fuller, just see if anything else materializes. If nothing materializes, then I will drop him, pick up my defense, but I will keep him on my watch list. And maybe one of those weeks when I've lost an injured player, no one on the waiver wire excites me, that's when I'll go back and get Will Fuller. I think he will have value this year, and I think you'd be amiss not to have taken a gamble on him at some point this year.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that headlines my watch list, and I'm gonna kind of figure out when he's gonna be back. This is week 6 to week 8 is kind of the range he's expected to be back on the field. Like I'll probably like watch 2 weeks before he's actually supposed to return. That's when you add him. That's that way he's not clogging up your bench, but you still have the potential on that upside. And that's definitely a name that I'm gonna keep in the back of my head as I'm finishing out drafts and as I'm targeting the waiver wire, heading into the season. Thanks again, Ben, for joining us. We had a lot of fun. Make sure you check out all of our videos on YouTube. Also, head to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, rate and review 5 stars. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you guys later.